This is a story about an experience that still haunts me to this day. I'm 14 years old and live in South Africa, a country where crime is unfortunately very common. Hearing gunshots outside my house isn't unusual, and power outages happen frequently due to our government's corruption. My family lives in a large house with security cameras, motion detectors, and 2 gates for extra safety. One evening, I was having dinner with my family when my brother suddenly asked, "Did you hear that?" I hadn't heard anything, but he insisted he'd heard something break outside on the patio, like a wine bottle shattering. I didn't think much of it and went to study for an exam in the living room after dinner. My parents left for the gym, as they usually do on Saturday nights, and I stayed behind. While I was studying, I heard a crash from the patio, just like my brother had mentioned earlier. What happened next still sends chills down my spine. My brother rushed into the living room, looking terrified, something I'd never seen before. He stared at me with wide eyes for about 10 seconds, then grabbed my arm and said, "Upstairs, now!" Confused and scared, I followed him upstairs without understanding what was happening. He quickly closed the heavy metal shutter that separates the downstairs from the upstairs, something we only use in emergencies. Once we were in his room on the 3rd floor, which overlooks the patio, he pointed outside. At first, I thought I was looking at a shadow or a shrub, but as my eyes adjusted, I saw a man pacing around the patio. He was holding a broken wine bottle, had a shaggy beard, and was about 5'9". But what terrified me the most was his wide, crazed eyes and the sinister smile on his face. He looked like he had escaped from a mental institution. When I started to speak, the man suddenly turned and looked directly at us. His gaze was chilling, and I felt my blood run cold. He began running, slowly and unsteadily, toward the door, leading into the house. My brother and I were frozen in fear. Without saying a word, my brother grabbed my hand and took me to my room on the 2nd floor. He reassured me that everything would be okay, even though I could tell he was just as scared as I was. Moments later, we heard slow, heavy footsteps coming up the stairs. The shutter was closed, but we knew it wouldn't hold for long, especially since the power went out, disabling the security system. My brother locked my bedroom door, and we waited in the dark. He explained that without power, the shutters could be easily pried open. I was convinced we were in grave danger. Then we heard the horrifying sound of the shutters being forced open. I grabbed my hunting knife, a birthday gift, and held it tightly in one hand while clutching my brother's hand with the other. The sound of metal scraping against my bedroom door filled the air. It was the man trying to get in. My brother had already called 112, South Africa's emergency number, but we knew help would take a while to arrive because response times are often slow here. The scraping continued for what felt like an eternity. My brother made me hide in the cupboard and took the knife from me. Just as the tension became unbearable, we heard police sirens outside. My brother used the gate remote to let them in, and they quickly apprehended the intruder. The police later told us the man had escaped from a local asylum 3 months earlier and had a history of violent crimes, including manslaughter. If it weren't for my brother's quick thinking, I don't know what would have happened to me. 2. This day, I sometimes hear the sound of the knife scraping against the door in my nightmares. It was the most terrifying experience of my life, and I hope the man is now getting the help he needs. I shared this story to give you a glimpse into the horror of that night.